In a new age of watchmen, a team of individuals, pooling their talents and abilities, come together to bring analysis, reaction, and comedy to the fold. This is their chronicle. This is Accounting Arc.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today it's just Byron and me, and you may have heard our previous episode about being in the tech space, and that's what we're going to talk about again today. And actually, there's been a change. So if you've been following our episodes, Byron, Liz, and I have also talked about being a founder. And some of our, maybe I might say criticisms, or actually I'm going to stay with our commentary, or analysis
There you
and
go.
reactions to some of the things that some of these startup founders tend to do. And well, Byron actually just had a I don't want to call it a career change, but had a position change. He's not the founder in this case, but he's taken on the CEO seat at one of the fintechs. And so wanted to kind of get Byron's reaction on, hey, dude, we just kind of criticized this. Why are you coming into a seat like this?
Yeah, no, and one of the exciting parts of it, as being a founder previously, one of the things that I've learned about myself is I like to build. I like to build teams. I like to build organizations, and so this for me was another opportunity to do it in what I would call a healthy way. I think you and I share a lot of the same sentiments of how to lead a healthy organization versus leading, some of these startups that are a little bit of, paper mache and facade. This was an opportunity to, kind of flex that muscle and hopefully do it right.
Cool. And do you want to tell us a little bit
Oh,
about kind of what it is to be in the C? What does that actually mean to be the CEO of a company like this?
Oh wow. What does it mean? So it means well, first of all, let's say what it doesn't mean. I think a lot of people get the impression that as CEO, it's kind of like you're now the dictator of this organization and you don't answer to anybody and you can just do your own thing. And that is not actually correct. In at least in my situation, I am working for the owners of the business. So I am accountable to, the owners of the organization and I work for them. And but they are putting a lot of trust and responsibility in me to make major decisions, to make strategic decisions, to basically plan out the trajectory of the organization. Without someone, in it day to day, really determining what true north is going to be and then making the plans to get there, organizations tend to be a little bit rudderless and kind of go where the wind is blowing. So by bringing in myself as the CEO with a full focus on the day to day and the strategic direction, that is what I'm going to be focused in on, and that means evaluating what resources we need, if there's hiring gaps that or talent gaps that we need to fill, things such as our relationships with our customers and what does the relationship action look like. Of course, looking at the financials and the revenue, which is certainly an aspect of bringing forward my foundation of being a CPA. I really get to flex that muscle when looking at the finances, thinking about pricing, thinking about our strategies for marketing and sales. There's a lot of decisions that need to be made. And while certainly as CEO, it's kind of my responsibility to make those decisions, but it's also my responsibility to decide who needs to be involved in assisting in making those decisions.
I like that. I like how you defined what it's not, because I think too often we have this picture of what is the CEO, and it's kind of the stereotype A personality that's out there, like, yeah, we're gonna take over the world and then
That's
do all
right.
this stuff. And you've described a much more collaborative, um, thoughtful, I think, position, which definitely reflects like what we do in the profession. The you also described creating. Well, in the center, we talk about it as vision and clarity, and that's something that we do as accountants is help our clients figure out what's their vision for the future and provide the clarity around how they're actually going to achieve that. And instead of doing it from the outside, they're actually doing it from the inside. So I think that's pretty cool evolution as we look at that. You mentioned the CPA helped, and maybe your accounting and background helped develop some of that. What aspects do you think of perhaps what you've learned in accounting, or as you've
Yeah.
been involved in the profession, has actually helped you there?
Oh man. Yeah, I think there's a lot. I was really fortunate early in my career. The firm that I started at actually introduced me to strategic planning. We were facilitating strategic planning for small businesses, which was really cool as facilitators because we understood the economics of their organization. We understood maybe the financial challenges or the financial opportunities they had. And as facilitators, able to, not necessarily do the planning for them, but help their conversations. We had insights that really like I felt like kind of gave us an edge in helping them to get to where they wanted to go. And that is something that I have always found has been really helpful in having clear understanding of the finances and being able to think of the organization holistically. And it's really easy to make huge plans. I could sit down and, I could look at all of the events that are coming up. I could make some great plans to market at all of those events and, dream big. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to pay for that stuff. And being able to actually evaluate what is a good use of funds, how much money do we actually have? And then, we're a SaaS recurring revenue type of organization. So then to be able to do the math to say, if these events add these many new customers, what type of revenue contribution does that look like? And having all of that understanding, I'm sure you have talked to founders of organizations that really have very little understanding of how those economics work and how they even make money. So, having all of that understanding helps to make all of these decisions. And then when it comes time to sell those decisions to the stakeholders, I'm able to articulate that in a way that just makes good business sense.
But you used an interesting word there, stakeholders. What does that actually mean?
Yeah,
Who are these people? Is
they,
that shareholders? Is that the equivalent?
I don't know if it's exactly the shareholders. I mean, the owners are definitely part of that, but when you have team members, especially in an organization like this, I am new to the organization. There is a lot of legacy decisions that have been made. There is team members who are potentially heavily invested in certain aspects of the way we are already running the business. So if I'm coming in and making plans to do new things, I consider them to be stakeholders as well, and I want to make sure that I'm communicating clearly to them the why we are doing something and how it's going to impact them. Because I find one of the challenges that leaders in organizations run into is uh, bringing everybody with them. when they are making these decisions. And oftentimes they struggle with that because they're not explaining how it's going to impact those individuals' days. What is going to be the impact and what are the concerns those people have? So when I talk about stakeholders, I'm really talking about, everybody that these decisions are going to impact, in and outside the organization.
I love that you're bringing this up. That to me was one of the biggest things we saw in the course of the pandemic, because prior to that, it was always about customers. And on one aspect, what does the customer want? The other thing that we always kept hearing, well, especially in a startup space, is what are the investor? How are we going to get the return to the investors?
That's right.
Or in the corporate space, it's the return to the shareholders. Which is why I kind of was asking you, like, how do you see that as being different? And I think one of the big things we saw during the pandemic was this shift towards stakeholders instead. The fact
Right.
that it was customers or clients
Yep.
and employees, and then the firm owners or the business
Right.
owner or the investors or the shareholders, whatever term it is. Like, these are three different major sets of stakeholders that we are trying to
Yes.
balance everyone's needs and with limited resources, as you indicated earlier. And how do
Right.
I optimize to ensure everyone is effectively having their needs met as we move forward?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned, and I didn't really mention the customer as well. I did at the very end, but one of the things that I have always tried to be intentional about is I want the customers who made the decision to purchase our solution. I want them to be superheroes in their organization. Like, I want to give them not only the positive impact, but the actual ammunition for them to go to who they report to and say, we did this thing and it had these positive impacts. So, I talked about like pricing. Like, in the future, we may change our pricing approach. And when I do that, I've definitely got to make sure that those individuals in those firms, are in a good position within their firm to still be successful. Because if they don't look successful because I've now made a pricing change that negatively impacts them, that's going to create some real churn for us.
It's it's funny that you bring that up. So I've been working with a startup from Silicon Valley, and the CEO came to me and he said, I mean, they're really startup. And so he came to me and he was like, well, since you guys are going to be like super early adopters, here's the pricing we're going to give you. And I pushed back and I was like, let me just tell you, thank you so much, because it was low. And coming back to your comment about the holistic view, I told them, but if I base my pricing on this, that's not going to be, how much are you going to bump this up when you're ready to go mainstream?
Right.
And so do you have a feel for what that's going to be? Because I cannot like come in now at this to my clients and then end up being up here and all of a sudden they're all priced out, especially since we work with small and mid-size. It just doesn't work
Yeah.
that way. So he came
Yeah.
back and his price was like here. And I told him, okay, wait, now that's too expensive for me. Because I said, I can't, as a small business, I can't work that into my budget and know that I can recoup that given what it is. So I might have to
Right.
delay it. So then he came back and we're kind of at this point where we're talking. But it's so interesting, like you said, that yeah, you need to have this understanding of pricing and how that impacts all these different things. And can I make this sustainable going forward for both parties so that we have a win-win?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I do think, I think you, Liz, and I have all talked about in the past, like kind of that CPA brain where we walk into other businesses and immediately we're doing the calculations, like how is this a profitable organization, like doing all of that math. And I think that again is another one of those advantages of being in a CEO role, and I'm sure you feel this as well. When we're looking at our customers, we're thinking about how are they profitable and how does my solution fit into their profitability, and making sure that we're accounting for that. I believe a lot of businesses, they lose sight of that. They all of a sudden, our value is X, and that's great. But if your customers are now not profitable because you've decided that's your value, that's not going to be a winning position to be in long term.
Yeah. Well, some of what you're saying makes me think of, so we've been hearing this word sustainability come up
Yeah,
a lot more, and usually people think about that in an environmental sense. But I think what you just described is sustainability in the broader, actually several things you said, the sustainability in the broader sense. So financial sustainability with pricing and
yep,
costing, but also I think a really important thing you brought up is strategy execution requires bringing everyone else along. And that's sustainability on the people front. How do we actually engage our people, ensure that they're all coming along with us for this journey, wherever this is going to take us, hopefully somewhere great.
that's right. Yeah, and I I I recently read, and I may have mentioned this somewhere else, but I recently reread Leaders Eat Last from Simon
Mm.
Sinek. I read it years ago when he first released it. I loved it then. I wanted to refresh. I reread it, and I'm probably more excited about it now than even when I originally read it, just because I've had so much scar tissue and experience since that first read. And he does such an amazing job of kind of, you know, breaking down the emotional motivations of different people and how to make sure that as a leader, you are bringing everybody with you. And it just really spoke to that entire idea of motivating a team, getting the team excited about where you're going, and making sure that they all feel that they are part of it, like genuinely. I'm sure you've seen it as well in organizations where there's quote unquote leaders who are just kind of checking boxes. Like they need to feel like they're coming along, but they really aren't, and it's a lot of just kind of playing games. But part of being a good leader, in my opinion, is that genuine desire to make sure that everybody is excited and getting the benefit of where we are going. And you will have people who, are ready to go to war with you. And that's what you want. That's what Simon talks about. Like you want people who are ready to go to war with you, that you are ready to go to war with. And um, at that point, their resume is almost meaningless because these people are going to do their very best every day for the greater good of what you're doing.
Well, I'm getting chills, just like in a good way, like goosebumps listening to you, because I feel like that this particular thing, people being giving you their best, and interesting you use the word war, like willing to go to war with you, right? Because we don't see real war very much anymore.
Right.
But this whole concept of how do I engage everyone towards our mission in the firm or in the company that you're at, and how do I get everyone excited and passionate. I also recently just gave a DEI webinar. It was on a DR panel actually, and we were talking about the need to really help everyone feel included, but also to feel that everyone feels like they belong. And when
Right.
they feel like they belong as part of this team, as part of this company, that's where you're really going to get that dedication. And we're going to do whatever we can to ensure we're all successful together. Not just what am I going to do so that I'm successful and so that I look good. And that mentality of that team becomes so much more powerful.
Oh man, and I like that's fun to be a part of, right? I mean, and that's what like Simon talks about in the books, like serotonin, oxytocin, and all of these hormones that get released when you're part of a team that just like is amped to go out there and do this work. So, I mean, I love everything about what you're saying there, and just like, bringing all those things together. Leading that is so much more fun than just cracking the whip every day.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like, Liz, you and I have talked about this being in leadership positions. Do you feel like we're the anomalies And there are others, not just the three of us. There's a bunch of
Right.
us, and we tend to hang out with the leaders of the
Yeah.
profession. Are those of us that are in the leadership in the profession anomalies, or what would you say to someone, say, that is in school, that is like, can I actually do that? Like, is that something I'm doing? Is that part of my accounting career?
Yeah. Um, I will say, I believe, unfortunately, we are the minority. I believe there are a lot of people out there who are driving organizations from a very selfish perspective. It's for their own individual personal gain, and they are just going to use and take from everybody they can in order to achieve their individual goals. I believe now, even though I believe we are in the minority, I think there are a lot out there. We tend to draw those people around us, and we find them. So there are a lot of people out there. And yes, I think anybody who is maybe in school right now and kind of looking ahead in their career, I believe everybody has the capacity to do it. There was a time when I really thought that leaders were born, and I've changed my opinion on that significantly. I think anybody has the ability to lead and be very successful in building teams and organizations that can really be positive for not just them individually, but for many people. And it's really about losing that selfishness and thinking much broader. In Simon's book, he talked about, and I wish I remembered the details, but there was, I believe, a basketball coach, a college basketball coach, who his legacy is actually the fact that he coached the highest number of future coaches of
Hmm.
any other coach. And they basically talked about this concept of lighting candles, and it really, when I heard it, it gave me those chills, because I was like, you know what, I think anybody who is focused on trying to build other leaders is going to be successful in their leadership role, and I believe that all of us have that ability to do it if we're focused properly.
Totally agree with you. And I think actually I think our profession is fairly unique in that a lot of what we do is about building that leadership pipeline.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, sometimes it surfaces as the upper out, but
right.
more often than not, what I've found is that the leaders in our profession are so giving, and they're willing to coach, they're willing to nurture. It's
Yep.
not this cutthroat, like, I'm going to fight to be the best. And I'm not just the people at the top, but all the way moving up. The seniors and the managers and the controllers and the CFOs, everyone is really invested in, hey, let's help bring others up. Let's lift as we climb, is one of the ways that I like to say that as well.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to become a leader, to grow and be nurtured to become a leader. I think I've found, as I've talked to others in other professions, I think is even more prominent in our
Hmm.
profession.
I think you're right now that you really say that. I think part of probably why I initially was thinking about us being the exception is, of course, being blended in the technology world and the accounting space. It can definitely tilt things when I bring in the technology space. I think a lot of tech founders are tend to be, you know, selfishly minded. And I think they just come from a different place. But I agree with you. The profession has been uh, really amazing at fostering a lot of leaders. And we've seen. I mean, I know you are a leadership alumni. Um, from or the Leadership Academy alumni, which there's been, wow, what an incredible number of people who have come through that, who also own organizations and have also, worked with their people to inspire leadership. I mean, the ripple effect of just that program and the people in that program is pretty significant. Probably lit a bunch of forest fires as far as lighting other candles.
That one makes me worry a little bit because now we're back on the environmental damage. Yeah, totally. The ripple effect. I always talk about that. The one touch that we make and how that influences others and influences others, not just within the profession. So I wanted to run this one by you too.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think about is, well, as an accountant, especially in a traditional accounting type of
Yep.
a role, we're not usually the decision maker, but the power that we have is to actually influence the decisions that are made, either by bringing up some data, doing different analyses, or even just kind of raising the question, like, is that ethical? Because we're known for being that ethical profession, right? Is this the right thing to do? Yeah, you can legally do it, but is this really the right thing to do? And by raising those questions in the organizations that we are in, either inside or externally as the auditor or the advisor, we can actually influence others to be better leaders and to make the right decisions.
Absolutely. And that's, I think one of the fallacies that people don't understand. They think that to be a leader, you have to be in a certain chair. And what you're explaining there is it's not about being in the right chair. It's about contributing to those conversations and helping to, you may not be the ultimate decision maker, but by influencing those decisions and providing guidance or data, you are a leader in your own role, which you're absolutely right. I always think about you rarely see it, but I've always encouraged accounting firms to think about their total economic impact. If they looked across all of their clients and you look at the total number of people who are employed by all of your clients, the total revenue that is generated. And, even a very small firm has the ability to have significant economic impact. And I think that's almost a KPI that firms should be looking at when they think about that ripple effect.
Well, that's interesting. I talk about that, but I haven't thought about it from the economic standpoint. When we go into ESG reporting, environmental, social, and governance reporting, we do talk
Yep.
about environmentally, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3
Sure.
impacts, which is kind of my internal, my supply chain, and then the ultimate customers and everybody else. And that would be interesting to take that and apply that and look at the economic impact rather than the environmental impact.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about driving prosperity within our society. Like, that would be crazy analysis to do.
I agree with you. I'd love to see some firms doing that because I think it can be easy to undervalue your contribution to society. And I think looking at those numbers could really, I mean, we're accountants. We like metrics. We like KPIs.
That might actually be a good place to wrap this, because I think let's leave that as a challenge for everyone. So if you're listening, I think the question is, can you quantify the impact that you're having? And remember to think beyond just yourself, the clients, whether they're internal or external clients, the clients you're working with, the others that you're working with. How are you actually having an impact as a leader within your organization or within society?
Great question. Love it.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Always fun
you.
times with you, and we're sad that Liz wasn't with us today, but I think we
Yep.
kind of accelerated this leadership conversation.
I love it. It's so much fun to have it, so I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks all of you for joining us as well. We'll see you on the next episode of Accounting Art.
The Center for Accounting Transformation provides business professionals with a network for utilizing innovations that are ready for adoption, the training and resources necessary to apply those innovations, and an opportunity to engage the talent and community needed to further the pursuit of innovative accounting practices that drive responsible and mindful business performance. Find out more at our website, www.improvetheworld.net. And if you're interested in sharing your own transformation stories, please contact us there.